Good afternoon and welcome to today's second session. This session is on blockchain technology. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type into the Zoom chat box. Those who have joined us on YouTube can post their questions on YouTube comment section. I'll bring them up at the end of the presentation. Our presenter for today's session is Dr. Ashish Seth, Professor, Department of IT, School of Global Convergence Studies, Inha University, South Korea, presently deputed to Tashkent, Uzbekistan. Dr. Ashish Seth is an author, researcher, teacher, and a consultant. He has been into academics for more than 17 years and has an exposure of working at various roles and responsibilities. He has worked with Uttar Pradesh Technical University, MIT University, IFTM University, Ministry of Manpower, IBRI College of Technology, Oman. He has received Best Faculty Award at CSI TechNest India 2018, Young Researcher Award at Republic Day Achievers Award, Integrated Intelligence Research 2017. He has to his credit many consultancy projects. Some of them are Compendium of India's Export Portal for Asian Countries, Research Project of Ministry of Commerce and Industry, India, Components Testing of Ajiska Learning Tool for Ajiska, USA, Consultant for UNDP Uzbekistan in a project to find out the need and subsequent steps needed in reforming the IT education in schools, colleges, and universities in Uzbekistan. Consultant cum subject expert with TSI Riga under the European Union project, strengthening the academic staff of the Transport and Telecommunications Institute in the area of strategic specialization. We are thankful that he accepted our invitation to take this session. May I now invite Dr. Ashish Seth for his presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Chaya, for this nice introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all in this presentation. So I believe that you all are maintaining a good health in this pandemic time. As you all know that we are going through this critical situations. Today I'll be talking about blockchain technology, its adoption and trends and the future scope. So before I start my talk presentation, firstly, I would like to thank GSS Academy for organizing this webinar and giving me an opportunity to interact with you all. My special thanks to Dr. Arun Kumar for his invitation and inviting me, to be a part of this this particular event. So let's start. Let me share the screen. Okay, just want to confirm from you, is it visible to you?
It is visible, sir. You can put it on the full screen mode.
Okay.
This is okay, sir, now.
Okay, fine. So these are the contents for my today's discussion or the presentation, you can say. So I'll be talking about the blockchain, the basics of the blockchain adoption trends in the market, what is decentralized ledgers, which are said to be the pillars of this technology, the different kind of blockchains that are being used nowadays. I'll be talking about some use cases that are built on blockchain and a very brief introduction about the Hyperledger. So the audience are looking about the takeaway of this presentation, what actually they are going to get after this presentation. So I would like to say that they will be getting to know about the basic principles of the blockchain. I'll be talking about the trustlessness, security, distributed ledgers, group consensus, decentralization. Those who are looking to do some kind of research in this area, I'll be discussing some use cases that are going to help them to explore more into the blockchain. So we'll start. First, I'd like to discuss or tell you about the adoption, means how it is important, why it is important to work on blockchain. So we need to understand that we need to just explore that blockchain is just a technology which has a huge potential. And if you look to the statistics and to the emergence of this technology, you may realize that since the beginning, new cryptocurrency has been coming to the market. And if you look to the growth of this technology, in 2018, $2.1 billion was actually the spending on this technology, but due to this pandemic, it has affected. It was expected 3.2 billion for 2020, but because of this pandemic, there's a slight decrement. But still, there's a huge scope and a hope for this technology, and it is expected that by the year 2024, $20 billion will be invested in this technology. Banking sectors, global supply chain has already been adopting this technology because identifying the kind of security and the potential within this. If you look to the kind of job posting on the LinkedIn, you may realize that there are many openings coming for the blockchain experts. Many countries have already been turned to use this technology, and many of their government solutions have been implemented using this. If you move to the statistics that how it is moving, and if you look to the growth, you may realize that it has a huge potential, and those who are looking to work in this technology will definitely having a good scope and benefit. So if you look from the 2009, the year when it was invented, so 2009, 11, 12, 13, the growth was almost linear, and it was assumed that blockchain has only utilized in the Bitcoin, in the cryptocurrency. But in 2012, 13, it has been realized that this technology has a huge framework. It has a very good potential. It can be explored in many dimensions. And it has realized that we can also embed the business logic into this framework to come up with very smart applications. And then onwards, many blockchain framework has been proposed, like Hyperledger was there, the Ethereum was there, the concept of smart contract was being proposed, and then onwards, there's a exponential growth in this field. So if you look to the graph, it has been expanding at a very high rate. And if you look to the expanding of the growth rate, it is expected that from the next decade, it will be like 48.7%. So this is a very huge percentage that tell us that if you are having an interest in blockchain technology, you will be going to come up with a very good applications and have a very great career ahead. If you look to the trends or the applications which are very, very kind of popular or adapted using the blockchain. So when we talk about the cloud computing, we heard about the IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. These are the different pillars that on which the cloud computing is based on. In the coming days, we will be hearing about the BaaS as well. So blockchain as a service. So already the Microsoft, the IBM, the Amazon has already come into this domain, and they are ready to provide this as a service. You may have heard that blockchain has already been in many sectors. It has already dominated in almost all the sectors. You can talk of healthcare, you talk about the global supply chain. You can look at its integration in the IoT as well. You heard about that blockchain has already been used with AI as well. And if you heard about the Singularity Net, it's a project that brings the two technology, blockchain and AI, together. Although the project is actually young, but it has already made a big splash in the community with a 36 million ICO that is sold just in a minute. So we can realize that how it has been accepted by the community. So presently that project Singularity Net is in the beta stage, and it is running on the Ethereum blockchain, but its interoperability can be adapted in other platforms as well, they are claiming. And presently the AGI is the proprietary cryptocurrencies that is used by the Singularity Net. So you can see that blockchain is something that has a huge potential and has already been adapted in many domains. So what is all about this blockchain? So the story is started in the year 2008 by the publication of one research paper. This white paper was published by Satoshi Nakamoto. In that paper, he actually told that he actually discussed that it is possible to do the trading, do the transaction without the presence of the third party. So normally when we do transaction, we always keep the third party in between for the sake of trust, for the sake of security. But now with this concept, he said that we can do transaction with which can be secure without involving a third party. He also introduced or discussed some issues, or he addresses some issues which was not before actually addressed, the issues of the cryptocurrencies. So he said that cryptocurrency can be made possible, and he has given the idea of this blockchain. After the 2008 and 9, then we have the age of cryptocurrencies, and now you can see there are a lot of cryptocurrencies are there in the market. It's all because of this kind of work he did. So what is actually the blockchain? So blockchain, in the simplest form, it's a record keeping system. It's a ledger. A ledger is something that we have been using for a very long back. Its ledger is in our system for more than 5,000 years ago. But ledger itself has a kind of story. It has evaluation. So initially, when the ledger was there, people were using this kind of data entry using a single entry system. Then we moved to the double entry system, but now we have a triple entry system. So in the present ledger, where we call it the triple entry system, we are making a debit, credit, and also we are providing a immutable link that can track all the past debits and credits. Now, ledger is something which maintains the ownership of assets. Now, assets, it can be anything that can be defined, which requires a record of ownership. So, ledger is something, when I say that blockchain is a ledger that can maintain the ownership of any assets. Now, asset can be anything. It can be tangible, it can be intangible, it can be a record that holds that who is the owner of any vehicle, any household. It can also maintain a record who actually holds any patent. It can also hold a record if you have a movie ticket. It also holds a record of any document. So here, when I say a transaction, it can be a financial transaction, it can be non-financial transaction, it can be any asset. So the core components of this technology. So the pillars of this technology are said to be the ledger, the concept of ledger, and the cryptography, and the internet. Ledger, as I said, that ledger is something that is used for making a record of assets. Cryptography is also, we have been familiar with. Cryptography is something that allows us to do the transactions in presence of adversaries. Internet is also there. We have been using it for a very long time. It helps us to share the resources, share the information. Now, when we combine all these three things, we can get a very secure structure or framework that is a blockchain. So we'll see that how all these three things are actually combined together to give us this new framework. Apart from this, there is also some term that has been used with the blockchain, that is trustlessness, decentralization, distributed ledgers, group consensus, immutability. We will see this. Now, cryptocurrency is also one term that is always comes in picture when we talk of the blockchain. So cryptocurrency becomes very popular after the release of that paper, which is proposed by the Satoshi Nakamoto. So nowadays we have Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin, many cryptocurrencies are there. Now, cryptocurrency is something which industry has been trying to come up with this concept for a very long time, but only after 2009 we are able to come up with a feasible cryptocurrency that can work in a real scenario. Earlier proposals have been made, but all are not able to solve one concern. There is one problem, double spending problem, which was actually existing before 2009. And what is that problem? It's a kind of potential flaw in the digital cash scheme, where a single token can be spent more than once. Now, this is actually a very obvious problem because digital currency is actually a digital value which can be falsified, which can be duplicated, and the problems becomes more, kind of obvious when you want to do trading online. So this Satoshi Nakamoto has actually proposed one solution for this. He said this can be made feasible. Whatever the transaction we are doing, we need to write in some block, and then block need to be validated, and then only it can be verified, and added to the blockchain. So this double spending problem has been removed with the concept of block. So block is something that actually holds the entire transaction information. Then there is the concept of decentralization. So blockchain is basically a decentralized peer-to-peer network. So how it makes different? So normally when we say centralized approach, so if you are using any Moodle system or any system that is used internally in any organization, so here any authority or a group of owners can claim they have the central authority of this application. So in general, when I say centralized approach, means the solution, the data which goes to the solution, the infrastructure which is used to deliver the solution, all is owned by a person or a group person, means there is a central authority involved there. In the distributed approach, like a Facebook, so Facebook application and the data that goes to the application is still owned by the Facebook, but that is hosted by a third party. For example, Microsoft, Amazon, these are the parties which are providing these services of Facebook. So distributed is something where the authority is partially kind of, given to some third party. But when we say decentralization means there is no central authority who can claim the entire, the hold of the entire solution or the data that goes to the solution. So decentralization is something where there is no central authority who governs the solution. What does it mean? It means when we talk about the centralized approach, we have a client and server. So server is something which provides services to the other bodies, and server is actually controlled by some authority. But when we talk of decentralization, all the nodes are acting as a client and server. There is no node giving a special treatment. All are acting as at a time, they may be a client, they may be a server, all are having the equal kind of, rights given to them. So blockchain is a decentralized architecture. So what are the benefits that we can about a decentralized network? So one thing comes, there is trust. So blockchain is a trustless kind of, it provides trustlessness. Trustlessness means whenever we do transaction, you are doing an online transaction or an offline transaction or a global transaction, there comes a issue of trust, that how do we trust the other party? Now with the decentralized approach, there is no need to trust any party because the network itself is a very highly secure, is very much secure. Now this is only possible with this kind of peer-to-peer network. So here all the nodes are connected to each other. All the nodes are maintaining their own ledger. So the entire ledger is updated, maintained, and stored by the peer network. All nodes maintain the copy of the ledger. And if any update or anything to be added, it's the responsibility of the entire network to make a consensus and then do the updations. So trustlessness is one of the very important features of this blockchain technology that actually makes it very much popular. Now, decentralized network.
Sorry to intervene. One pop-up is interfering with your presentation, that is Zoom meeting. Can you make it disappear from your end? Yes.
Okay, just a minute. Is it possible to remove from your side?
No, it is at your end only. I think it can be dragged on the top or at the bottom. Yeah, just take it and drag it to the bottom. or hide notification. Yes, sir. It's okay.
Okay.
No, it's okay. Thank you.
It's okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. So we were talking about decentralized network. Now, decentralized network is providing a lot of to this technology. It makes the entire system very secure. Now, how? Now here the nodes can, any nodes can go offline and online at any point of time, and the system will be continuously working. So it avoids single point of failure. So any offline node when becomes online, it can just do the synchronization with the peer nodes and update the ledger. So this kind of infrastructure is also very much in use or very useful for the countries which do not guarantee the, the uptime of internet. So this is one of the reasons that many of the countries which have which are actually developing, they are actually moving to own this kind of technology. Also, the DOS attack is almost impossible here, because whenever any transaction has to be done, it has to be approved by all the nodes. So if any hacker want to make any manipulation on any of the node, it will not work unless he will hack the entire system. And if you talk about the blockchain kind of network, it consists of thousands of nodes. So it is almost impossible to just hack the entire system and do the manipulations, because changing only in the one node will not work. You have to make a change in all the nodes. Now, we said that blockchain is a kind of ledger which is recording the information, recording the transaction. This is also we are doing with the database. So how it makes the difference with the database? So when we talk about the database is basically provides the 4 operation that is called CRUD. Create, you can write any data to it, read the data, update the data, and delete the data. Now here, when we talk about the blockchain, it will only allow you to write something to it and to read from it. You are not allowed to update. You are not allowed to delete. That makes the kind of append only ledger. So if you want to make a change, you need to make a new entry. You cannot update the previous value. So this is something that makes this structure immutable. Whatever has written once cannot be erased, cannot be deleted. So when we talk about database is just you giving you the kind of a snapshot of the current data. But if you talk about the blockchain ledger, it will give you the entire version of the history. It will give you the entire history of all the data points from the beginning to the present status. We have different type of blockchains are there. If you are going to make a blockchain solution, you have to decide what kind of solution will be fit for your problem. We come across public versus private, open, closed, permissionless blockchains are there. Public, when we say public and private, the concern is who can write the data to the blockchain. So who will get the right permission to add something to the blockchain? So like the Bitcoin blockchain is a public blockchain where anyone can buy and sell the Bitcoins. He can become a part of it. Now, open and close, if you say here, the concern is who is going to read data from the blockchain. So again, the Bitcoin blockchain is an example of open blockchain. You just use the Bitcoin Explorer and you can see all the transactions that has been done so far. Either you have a participant or not, but you can see all the transactions. So everyone is allowed to read data, what is the entire data. When we talk about the permission and permissionless, so here the main emphasis is to provide some identity. So here the users or the participant will be provided some identity. Based on the identities they can access the different data. So when you so if you look to the different kind of this type of blockchain type, so you might heard about the Hyperledger and Ethereum. These are the two popularly framework which has been used for developing the blockchain solutions. So Hyperledger is basically kind of used for developing the business application. It is a permission blockchain, while Ethereum is a permissionless blockchain. It's an open ecosystem. Everyone can become a part of it and can access the data. But for the Hyperledger, as we have seen that the permission needs to be granted. So only the participants who are having a special permission to access the data can become a part of it and can consume the data from that blockchain. Then we have one matrix that is being used by the developers who are into the blockchain domain. They are using this matrix to build their solution. And this matrix has four parts, as you see on the slide: public, closed, public, open. So if you are looking to come up with any blockchain solution, the very first step is you need to identify the role of the participant. Are the participants are equally treated, or they are giving some privileges? They are giving some weightages to access your data. So if you look to this slide, I have just mentioned some of the areas, some of the problem areas, like if you're dealing with some problem that deals with currency or the security exchange, batting, video game, voting record, supply chain data. These are the different areas which you are interested to implement using a blockchain. So how you can fit these areas into these blocks. Now, one thing to understand that we have many metrics available to solve the problem. Like, for example, like QFD, quality function deployment. This is a matrix which is very popular. If you are going to build any product, then you use this matrix that will help you to convert the customer requirement into the technical specification. Similarly, we have DMM, decision-making matrix. This is also a very useful matrix which help you to converge to an ideal solution. Now, we have a lot of metrics for working with different kind of problems, but one thing to understand that these metrics can only be useful if you understood your system very carefully. Means if you understood your system well, if you have a good exposure of the technology, then only you are in a position to use this matrix in a proper way. So if you try to put these different problem domains in this matrix, you will find that betting kind of problem, video games goes to the top right side, public and open. This is a kind of open ecosystem where everyone can participate. At the opposite side, private and closed, this is a very secured or restricted kind of problem where you are keeping this into the private and closed domain. So how the entire system works. So this is a very simple kind of flow that how the system be working. So let's say there are two kind of entities, A and B. They want to do some transaction. A want to send some money to B. So A is making this transaction. He is sending this to B. Now this transaction must be delivered to all the peer nodes. The peer nodes will look to the transaction and then they will verify that the transaction is valid or not. So we have a defined procedure for verifying this transaction. Once all will agree that this is actually valid transaction, then only it is added to the blockchain and then it is delivered to the B. So this is how things are working. So every transaction need to be verified by all the peer nodes. Then only it has assumed to be done completely. Now, in order to understand that what are blocks, so blocks are a very constituent part of blockchain. So when I say blockchain, so it's a chain of blocks. Now, block, if you want to understand, you can understand with the help of this kind of example. You may assume that there's a notebook that consists of various papers, various sheets, and each sheet is a kind of block. So how the things are working. So let us take an example. In a room, there are 40 students or 40 people are sitting there. They all are holding one notebook, a notebook and a pen. And the rule is whenever they do any transactions, they need to announce it. So let's say if a person want to write something, want to make any transaction, he will come on the stage and announce that I am going to make a transaction. I want to give 100 rupees to person B. And this announcement will be noted by all the persons sitting in the room. So likewise, whenever anyone wants to do any transaction, that transaction need to be noted in this sheet of paper, and it has to be announced so everyone can make a note of it. Once this sheet is filled, because the sheet definitely has some lines, let's say 20 lines are there and each line denotes to one transaction. So when this entire sheet is getting filled, then every members in the room will going to compare what is written in its sheets and what is written in its peer sheets. And then they will see and they will agree on a kind of version where most of them agree. Now, this is a kind of verification, means many people are just consulting what they are having in their own sheet, and whatever the maximum people says, that is assumed to be the correct. This is how the blocks are made and they are verified. So blocks is basically holding the transaction that is done. But apart from this, there is some more information which is inside the block. This is called the metadata, which is actually used to maintain this entire structure. So you can see inside this block, there's a version number is there. There is a link. One link is there, which is actually connecting to the next block. There is something called Merkle root is there. Timestamp is also noted there. Nonce is also there. So Merkle root and nonce I am going to discuss in the coming slides. Now these are some information which is there inside the block. Now group consensus is the strategy which is used to validate. As you know that here nobody is having the central authority. The entire network is connected, and whenever any transaction is done, everyone has to agree on it. And if this all agrees, then only the transaction is verified. So we have the different consensus policies are there. Proof of work is the most properly used consensus policy, which has been proved for more than 10 years. Then the next is proof of stake is there, which is also used in many of the blockchain solutions. It has also been used for the last 2-3 years. There are so many being proposed, but these are the two, proof of work and proof of stake, as widely used. Others, you can say, are in a kind of testing phase. So what is group consensus? Group consensus is like people are sitting together and they have to agree on any idea or any kind of comment. For example, 20 people are sitting in a room and they want to go for outing. So the options are either they will go to any mall to visit, or they can go for a movie. So 20 people are there. So what to do? There are two different options are there, and there is only one van is available that can take to the destination. So what they will do, they will just take a vote, and whoever having a majority, they will go for that. This is the same thing. So here, whatever the majority says, that will be taken as a granted or a correct. So blockchain is widely using the concept of hashing. This cryptography is being used there. So hashing is a mathematical function which is used to provide a signature to the entire data. So whatever the data, whatever the input is there in the block, we apply the hashing function and it will give some output. So here we use the cryptographic hash. SHA-256 is the most widely hashing used for doing the encryption. Now this is a one-way encryption, means you can encrypt the data, but you cannot apply the reverse engineering. You cannot go back. You cannot decrypt. So the rule is you have a data in the block and you apply the hash function. You apply the SHA-256 algorithm that will convert your entire data to an output, and that output will be unique for every input. So as a rule, we provide some difficulty label. So we will make sometimes we make that the output must contain 4 starting zeros. There may be 8 starting zeros, and so on. It depends on the difficulty label that we have imposed on the blockchain. Then we have something called Merkle trees. Merkle trees actually it is used to, it's a technique for a fast validation of the entire data. So what is happening here? In place of comparing, so whenever the block is completed, as I said, we are writing the transaction in the block, and then block need to be approved. Now, how we are doing the approval? We are checking the entire transaction. It's matching with every other peers or not. So instead of comparing the entire block data, we are only comparing one value that is called a Merkle root. So Merkle root is basically the entire hash value of the entire data. Now this value must be matched with the every participant. So if this value is matching, that means the entire content of the block is matching. Otherwise, it's not matching. So this will make the entire process very efficient and fast. So they are chained together. So here, what is happening here? We will write one value from the previous block, and that is written to the next block. And this value must be same. And this is something that is used to attach the two nodes together. We have some term called block height. Block height tells us the number of nodes in a blockchain. And block height is also a parameter for identifying the security. So if the block height is more, it is more secure. Then we have something called mining a block. Mining a block is verifying a block. So whenever the block gets filled, it has need to be verified. So once block is getting verified, it is added to the blockchain. Now, in this verifying process, the miners are coming into the pictures. So miners are there, who is actually, these are the participants in the network who are actually verifying that the contents are correct or not. Now for verifying, we are using one term called nonce. So I would like to demonstrate. I am using a Ender's Wort page to demonstrate that how the things are working after a few seconds. So miner, what is doing, whenever the transaction is actually happening, it goes to the transaction pool, and immediately the transaction is not getting verified. All the transactions are actually sitting in the transaction pool, and then miners will take some of the transaction from it and make a candidate block, and then it needs to be verified. Now for verifying, what is required? For verification process, the rule is the output hash must satisfy the given condition. For example, if the output hash value is given, let's say we in the system, it is given that the output hash must start with 4 zeros. So what does it mean? It means I have one input, I have a block that contains some data, I applied a hash function will convert into some output, but that output is not starting from 4 zeros. In that case, miner has to add some extra data into that block to satisfy the condition, and this is the job of the miner, and this is called nonce. The value he is adding is called nonce. So let's see how the things are. Are you able to see this screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so to understand that how the hash works, this is I am using a SHA 256 code here. Now this is my data. If I write something, if I say hi, this is my data, and you can find that this is one value I am getting here. If I say hi all, then this value is getting changed. Means for every input there is a unique output. And one thing is interesting, if I add more values to it, every time whatever is your size of input, your output size is always the same. So your input is of 1 MB, 2 characters, 20 MB, your output will always be of this much characters. Now this is how the blocks will look like. This is just a kind of simulation of the block. This is block 1. Now this is the hash value. You can see that I have put my hash value must start with 000. So if I write some transaction, let's say $100 is being transferred to someone. So this hash value is getting changed, but now it is not starting with 4 zeros. So in order to get the 4 zeros, let's say I click this mine. Now this is a job of miner to add some value here to make it with 400. So what the miner is doing, he's trying with all possible combination 1, 2, 3, 4. So now to get this kind of job, miner is using a very efficient machines which can do this kind of computation in a very short time, because there are a lot of miners are working parallelly. Now why the miners are doing this job? Because they are getting the reward. Once they validate the block, they will get some Bitcoin as a reward. So they are using a very high efficient machines to get this value. So this is, now it is verified. Now this is called nonce. This is called number used only once. Now this is one block. If we look in context of blockchain, this is how it will look like. You can see here, this is a kind of 5 blocks in a blockchain, and you can see that every block is having some information, metadata. You can say block 4, nonce value, and this. Now, if I write something here, and one thing to note here, whatever is written here, this hash value must match to the previous hash value. Now this will connect the 2 blocks. Now, if I write something here, then these blocks are invalidated and this connection is lost. Okay, so let's say if I am a hacker and I want to do some manipulation here, and immediately if I mine this, if I fix this, and when I say fix this means I want to get an output that will start with 4 immediate zeros. So I'm able to fix this, but you can see that this is still invalid. So what I do is I need to fix all the blocks. This is called block height that I have mentioned. So if you are doing manipulation on the 3rd block, you need to fix 3rd, 4th, 5th. So if your 1000 blocks are there, and if you are doing manipulation on the 2nd block, all the succeeding blocks you have to fix, which is actually not very easy. Now, if you look at this scenario, this is a kind of a structure where we have 3 peers. This is a kind of blockchain system. Here you can see, here we have 3 peers are there, and every peer is maintaining the different. Just a minute, let me show you one thing. Okay, so here we have 3 peers, and every peers is maintaining this copy of the ledger. In the ledger we have 5 blocks, so everyone is having a 5 blocks and their entries are similar. Now if I going to make a change something here, let's say if I do something here, you will see that this is now invalidated. The block is not validated. Now if I fix this, so the miner, if I click on this mine, means I am trying to fix this. When I say fix this means I want to get a value which will give me 4 corresponding zeros. Now if you look at this, this is still invalid, and if I still fix this somehow, if I manage to validate this block also, and you will see that this is possible. I have fixed this, I have fixed this in a very short span of time, but still the entire effort are wasteless, because when you fix this block, you will find the values which are here is not going to match with the values which are in the peer B and peer C. So let's wait for some time, let this block to be mined. Okay, now I am able to fix the block. Fix the block means I am able to get a value which start with 4 consecutive zeros. But if you look at the values in this block, that means if the values are changed, the Merkle root is going to change. If the Merkle root is going to change, that means now these values are not going to match. Now it is 12937. Just a minute. It is 56265 in the peer C, 56265 in the peer B, but in the peer A it is 230931. That means all the efforts which I did to validate these blocks are actually of no use, because still it is said that this is actually a corrupted chain and it will not work, because here the majority says that this is the actual data. So this is how the things are working. Then if you move more closely, this is how the blocks will look like. You can see here the transactions are noted here. It will just, it's a kind of, just an idea that how the records blocks having the values. So here it says that Darcy has did a transaction of $25 to this. Now, this is keeping the record, but how you can verify that Darcy has a capability to store this, to provide this money to Bingley, because there is no information about the status of Darcy. So if you move to the Coinbase, in the Coinbase, actually, we are maintaining a wallet. So initially, you have to convert your hard cash money into the cryptocurrency. So here it says that Anders having this $100. Now this $100 can be transferred to any other party. So whenever any transaction has to be done, for example, if you see Jackson has did some transaction to Alexander, it will trace back and will see what is the actually the hold of Jackson. Means Jackson is capable to transfer $2 or not. This can be verified because here in the blocks we have all the information. So this is how the things are working. It's just a kind of little idea to have a relate that how the blocks are there, how they are connected, how the things are working. Now moving to back to the slides. So we have a lot of areas where blockchain has already been implemented. It has been used in background checks. Background checks means you can use a blockchain which can hold a record of any individual credentials, academic credentials, his certificates, his achievements. Nowadays, you may observe that the students are doing the studies and they are, like it's a global kind of things are happening. One student is doing the masters in one country, going for the PhD for other country, going for postdoc in other countries. Now, before he or she may take the admission, some background things, checks are required, and this will require a lot of process. So, but when the things are kept in the blockchain, the things can be easily available to all the parties. And also there is no chance of doing fake, because these are the immutable things. There is no chance of doing any fake with these kind of certificates. Similarly, the personal identification is one other area where the blockchain can be used, and already it is used in many countries. So here all the data means nowadays, like in India, you can find that many people are doing the fake of their Aadhaar cards, their voter ID cards. But once the things are on the blockchain, they cannot do all these kind of fake identities, because the things are immutable. You cannot change the information there. Land registries is again another issues, which is in India and also in other countries as well. It has been estimated that 25% means out of 4, one registry is always in a doubt. Means there is no clear ownership is mentioned. So land registry is something that will, if you keep in the blockchain, it will track the entire history, that who is the owner of any land, how it is transferred to other person, where it is transferred, and you cannot make changes. Today also we are having all the things on the database, but the things are not working fine, because it is again managed by the central authority. Some people is managing all these records. You can provide the bribe to the person, and with the bribe he can make the changes on that record. So the things is actually making immutable with the help of this blockchain. Global supply chain is another area which is widely used. Healthcare, airlines. There are so many areas actually they're already in place. If you're looking to work or do any research in the blockchain, you can go to these products. These are already IBM is a one big player who has already come up with many products implemented with the blockchain, like Life ID, which is actually providing the identity of any person. Cook County is for the land registry. MedChain. So you can use these as a use case. You can just go through it and just take it as a case study, and it will help you to use the blockchain and the problem which you're looking for. Very interesting case of the Dubai. The government has already announced that the entire thing will be put in the blockchain, so that it will bring the transparency in the system. This is also one very good use case if you want to work in any blockchain project. So it means it's highly exploring. Means it's highly adapted by the different agencies, the industries. And if you compare with the last year, if you see the percentage of industries which are actually not familiar with this, it's showing 34, but with up to the today's, it is decreased to 8%. So there's a huge adaptation. Means up to the last year, if you talk to any person about the blockchain, like 66%, they are like familiar. 66% is already adapted in the industry as well, but now it's moved to 80%. So this statistics also that how the blockchain is being adapted by the industries. Now, how the things are changed when we use the blockchain system. So if you look at this simple scenario, this is one manufacturers are there, retailers are there, this is one banking organization is there. So they all together are involved when any businesses are happening. But if you look to the conventional system, what is happening? They all maintain their own kind of ERPs, they are maintaining their own kind of record keeping they are doing. And there is no perfect collaboration. They are not allowed to see the information flow. They are not allowed to see the flow of money, the flow of assets. But when we use the blockchain based system, when you use the blockchain based record keeping, all the assets, either the loan or the inventory or the orders are actually provided one kind of digital identity. You can call it as a token. And whenever any transaction is done, these transactions are to be recorded on the block. And that tells us that how that token has transferred from one entity to another entity. So when we use this kind of record keeping system, it will bring all the stakeholders together and will bring a single point of trust. So benefit you can get with this kind of structure is provenance tracking. Provenance tracking means you are able to just backtrack. You are able to track the thing from its origin. So means if you look at the global supply chain, with the help of this technology, you are able to know that who is actually manufactured, how it goes to distributor, how it goes to the retailer, and then to the customer. So there are many products where this kind of transparency is very much required, especially in the food products, the health products. The customer is very conscious to know about the origin, how it has been moved from person to person, and what about the quality. So everything can be tracked very easily with this kind of blockchain technology. Cost reduction is very obvious because now there's no need of third party. All the things are happening between the two parties, so there is no need to give the commissions. Normally, much of the part is given to the third party, so there is no third party involved. So there's a obvious reduction of cost in the entire system. It will establishing the trust between the two parties because it is immutable. Whatever is written in the block cannot be erased, cannot be deleted, cannot be modified. So it will bring the transparency in the system. So definitely. Then if you look to the current scenario, contact tracing is one of the very obvious case of this very useful case of blockchain technology. Contact tracing is nowadays, like, all the governments are worried about how to track the people's. So contact tracing is something where you want to inform the person if he has passed through any person affected with the coronavirus. So this kind of application is very much useful to find out what are the kind of infected areas and how the infection is being spreading around any region. So Government of India is also working on this. We have come up with the Arogya Setu app, and the government has kind of requesting the people to install this kind of app because it will help them to track the scenario, what are the hotspot areas, how it is spreading in the different areas. But the problem is, though it is very useful, but the people have a concern about the privacy. They always have a kind of doubt that their data, because when you install the application, you need to provide some data. So they have a kind of fear that the data can be misused later. Although the government is giving the assurance that the data cannot be used for any other purpose, and after this pandemic, everything will be deleted. But still, so many things are there. You can just check that there are so many articles on the news. Now with the blockchain, we can solve this kind of problem. Already it has been solved, and in many other countries, we can provide a self-sovereign identities. Now with this kind of identity, the user can control and can survive in the society without the interference of the third party. It can do online transactions. It can do all the activities which he can do offline. So without giving its own identity. So this is also one very good area of blockchain. If you look to the the platform where it is, which is used for implementing it. So I would like to talk about a very brief overview of the kind of Hyperledger. So just have a quick look of the Hyperledger. Hyperledger promises to change the way the business is conducted and how the transactions are executed across the industries. It is basically dedicated to build the sustainable systems around open source projects. So if you look at this, it's under the umbrella of the Linux. So it serves as a greenhouse that brings together all the users, developers, vendors from many different sectors and market spaces. And this Hyperledger provides a structure that can incubate new ideas, and each idea can be supported by essential resources and distribute the result widely to the entire organizations. So Hyperledger Fabric is very popular nowadays. It is supported by the IBM. It's a platform for building distributed ledgers solutions with an architecture that can deliver the high degree of confidentiality, flexibility, scalability. And this also enables that the solution developed with the Fabric can be adapted for any industry. Now, what kind of thing that you can get with the Fabric is, for example, it is very much important in the scenarios where some participants might be the competitors who do not want that every transactions can be known to every other participant in the network. So transactions such as if a party is offering a special price to some of the clients, then this price should not be visible to everyone. Okay, so now how can we achieve this? This can be achieved by where you can make a channel. So in the Hyperledgers, we have a concept where you can make a channels, and only the participant who are belonging to this channel can see this transaction. They will hold the similar copy of all the transaction that is happening inside the channel. So the system will be able to maintain the integrity as well as the transparency by using the concept of channels. So if you look to the challenges, so you can say it's a kind of a scope. So whenever we say any challenges are in the technology, that means it's a scope for the future research. So presently it is said to be inefficient because the main focus is on the security. So if you're looking for the very fast kind of applications, then this technology is not very much suitable at the present context. Maybe in the future we come up with some very good consensus algorithm that will be very fast. Here the main emphasis is on the security. This technology is very new, so we don't have so far very best practices established. We don't have any recommended pattern that can be used and can be implemented to build up a solution. So, and day to day it's been evolving, the changing. So it's also kind of challenge. Then scalability is also the other kind of issues. We have a triad, that is the availability, security, and the scalability. So far we are compromising on the scalability, but as we know that it has been adopted by many of the industries. So scalability is one of the challenges that we need to look on. Though many algorithm and the proposal has been there in the place which solve this problem, but all are in the testing phase and need to be solved in the coming futures. So what I will say is, whenever you look to the challenges, these are kind of research scope for the futures. This is just a brief of the entire technology that I want to discuss with you. So that's all from my side, and you can always reach to me at this is my email ID. Now, thank you very much. Now it's your turn to raise your questions.
Thank you, sir. I'll take a few questions. The first question is, how difficult is blockchain coding A blockchain developer is supposed to know which programming language. Are blockchain developers in demand?
Yes, blockchain developers are very much in demand because companies are moving to adopt the blockchain, but they don't find the efficient persons. They don't find these persons which having this kind of efficiency or having experience. So if you have experience in blockchain development, you will be very highly paid. You will be very much adapted. Now, what kind of languages can be used to develop a solution? So now there are two different kind of platforms that are used to develop the blockchain application. If you are looking for an open ecosystem, you can go for the Ethereum. If you want to develop a business to business application, you will be going for any permissions framework. That is a Hyperledger you can choose. Now for Hyperledger, Golang is actually very much used. It provides so many libraries to support this kind of framework. So I suggest you, if you are working in this Hyperledger, you also try to learn this Golang language, which is very, very useful to develop this kind of applications.
The next question is from Sudhanshu Pathak. What are the advantages and disadvantages of decentralized network? What types of networks are used by defense and investigation agencies?
By the
defense and investigation agencies.
Okay. Decentralization, as you have seen that there are the main advantage of decentralization is it will avoid a single point of failure, because all the participating nodes or the participants are maintaining their own copy. So even if some of the nodes or some of the participants are not able to work, or the machines are corrupted, the entire system will not hold on. It will keep on working. So single point of failure is one of the advantage of decentralization. The other advantage is the security. So if you look to the blockchain architecture and how the things work, so here every single node who is a part of the network will maintain the entire copy, and for any transaction every node has to verify this. Means unless every node verifies this transaction, it will never be validated. So if any person or a hacker, it will get a control on one node or two node or 10 nodes or 20 nodes and won't try to manipulate the things, it is not possible unless he will keep in confidence to the entire network. But the consensus is one problem with this, because we have to have a consensus algorithm. So whenever the transaction is to be done, we need to have a consensus to verify this kind of transaction. So if you talk of the proof of work is a mechanism where the miners will work together and verify the transaction. This is a kind of very time-consuming process. So consensus is actually a kind of big hindrance. We need to come up with very intelligent consensus mechanism that can do the transaction verify at a very faster pace.
Thank you. Another question from one of the participants, Sumana Achar. How is the interoperability achieved? Because file transfer between networks needs to be more secured. Privacy challenges exist. How is it solved?
So, see, if you talk about the blockchain is fully a secure system and provide the privacy. As I have told you in my presentation, that when we talk about the contact tracing, the people are worried about their identity that may be revealed. But when we talk about the blockchain, their privacy will not revealed, because entire system is anonymous. You are a part of the system, but your identity is not revealed to anyone. For example, Bitcoin blockchain is a perfect example. It's an open ecosystem. Anyone can see what transaction has been made so far, but you cannot check who is doing. You can simply see one number, that this number is doing this transaction, but the identity is fully anonymous. So the privacy is fully anonymous in this.
Another question from Sangeeta Mangesh. What type of records can be kept in a blockchain? Is there any restriction on the same?
No, every kind of records. Now, one thing to understand when I say a transaction or a record. The record can be anything. You can make a record that I have purchased a mobile phone. You can make a record that I have transferred money to anything. Means it can be a financial transaction, it can be non-financial transaction, it can be anything that can provide you the ownership of asset. It will just tell that you did this kind of activity, which has some meaning. So what I mean to say is, it can be financial, it can be non-financial.
Thank you. Another question from Dr. Chaya Dalela. Will 5G technology compromise blockchain technology's potential? How blockchain and 5G help secure mobile banking's future?
Definitely, it is going to help. This technology is not going to stop or providing any kind of loss to this technology, but it will going to help in enhancing the operation. Most of the problem that we see in the blockchain is the scalability. So definitely, I believe that with the advancement of this 5G technology, we are able to come out of the scalability issues. Although many solutions have been proposed, the scalability issue is the issue where when the system is being spreading to a wider domain. So what solution has been proposed, they have said that instead of keeping the entire blockchain at all the time alive, we can come up with the concept of offline. But when this 5G is coming into picture, it will add value to this offline chaining and will help the system. It will not affect adversely to the blockchain.
Thank you, Dr. Seth. We have covered all the questions. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with all of us. Your depth of understanding and your ability to present the core principles of blockchain in such an interesting way produced one of the most memorable afternoons for all of us. Now I request our head of the department, Dr. Arun Kumar Ji, to thank you on his personal behalf.
Okay. First, I would like to thank many thanks for the great lecture you delivered, Dr. Ashish Seth. Once again, I thank you. On behalf of JSS Academy of Technical Education, Noida, I would like to thank once again for your time and for your session. In very short duration, you accepted our invitation and you made this session a wonderful session. Once again, I thank you. Thank you, Ashish.
Okay, thank you very much from my side for the entire audience who have just given their time to listen to me and raising the questions, because these questions are always helping to me also to to look to the new domains. Thank you very much again.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Also I thank all the audience for attending all the 5-day session. So thank you all. Thank you once again.
Thank you. With that, we conclude this event on behalf of Department of Electronics and Communication, JSSAT Noida. We appreciate all the speakers for giving us time, and we are thankful to all the participants for being part of this webinar. We'll share feedback from a form with the participants through our Telegram group. Please remember to submit it and let us know whether we have accomplished our objectives. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you all on my personal behalf and on behalf of all the members of organizing committee, Dr. B.P. Mishra, Mrs. Sangeeta Mangesh, Dr. Gayatri Sakya, Dr. Chandra Shankar. Thank you once again. Please take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.